What is going on, y'all? Welcome to the Joel Friday TV podcast. I am Joel Friday. Bienvenido. Welcome to the show. It is what day? Monday. We are here. We're back at it for a new week. Hold on one second. Anyway, sorry I had a moment. I went blank. You can actually do me a favor. Hit that like button, smack it, lay the smack down on the like, subscribe, and share button. Tell your peoples about the show so we can get the subscribers up and the message out. Do it now. Make sure you guys do it. Also, as you guys know, it is a talk show, so you can call in at any point by calling 888-775-3773, 888-775-3773, and we could talk about whatever's on your mind, topics at hand, whatever you want to get into, we can do it. So you can call in. As you guys know, we're live on IG and we're live on YouTube. That is the new thing. So Monday through Thursday, if Joel Friday TV podcast is live, it's on YouTube and on Instagram. Soon we'll be going on Rumble and going on X and D Live and all those other things soon. But it's got to be worth it, y'all, because you got to pay to get on those other ones. And if I don't have no viewers on the other ones, I'm not about to be paying monthly for me not to have no viewers on the other thing. That's just not logical sense, right? So if you guys can promise me that you will watch over also on Rumble, or at least the folks that are on Rumble, that they're going to watch, then no problem. All right? So anyway. We got some stuff we're gonna get into. Oh, I forgot to mention. Did I mention it? If you can't call in, but you still have a question or comment, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JoelFridayTV. You can send your question or comments there, or if you just want to support the show, you can also go to the live chat and hit the super chat button and send your question or comments there, and I will read them live on air. As soon as they pop up, bow, I'm going to get to them if the Lord is willing. So you do have that option if you want to get involved with the topic at hand. Cool? Shout out to the Mob Squad. Shout out to the IG chat. Shout out to the YouTube chat. Snake Pit, holding it down. Amazing stuff. What up, Costin? Carver says, Joel always emphasizes can call in because it's only a very small possibility that he will take a call. Not true. Not true. If the calls are there, I will get to them. Sometimes there's no calls that are there. So I can't get to Casper. I love to talk to him because I got some questions for him, but I can't physically get to him. Unless there's actual calls. What you want me to do? Anyway, let's get to the topic at hand. So, I was thinking over the weekend, oh, we got some calls coming in. Nice. I was thinking over the weekend about, because as you guys know, there's a big battle going on between Drake, a hip hop battle between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, right? And if we want to take it even deeper, there's obviously a battle between good versus evil, right? But this battle between Kendrick Lamar and Drake is like a good example of what I want to talk about today. Now, I'm going to get into the back and forth a little bit, but not for the sake of the back and forth, but for the sake of making my point. Okay. So, um, we're going to get to that. But maybe I should take a call first. I know the chat would love that. Should I just take a call? I can hear him now. I can hear Carver. Just take a call, Joel. Come on. Take a call. I'm going to take a call. I'm being bullied by Carver. James out of New York. James, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Joel?
How's it going, James?
I'm good, man. How are you?
All is well.
I wanted to touch on a topic you were talking about in JOP with the kid on the treadmill and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with you, Joel. I know you said you were kidding, but I think you were right that both the parents should get in a little trouble for that, because I agree that making that kid run on a treadmill, like a little kid, they shouldn't be running on treadmills. Treadmills are dangerous. He should have had that kid running on grass, because then he could have been running at his own pace, even if he was running hard. And if he fell down, he falling on grass. That's, soft, and he can always get back up and dust himself off and start running again.
Right.
But I think the mother should probably be in a little more trouble than the father, because the mother went to how many hospitals that told her son was in like septic shock or had something, and she got him discharged because she wanted a doctor that could probably tell him, oh, it was from abuse, which is like crazy. It's like, if you have doctors telling you your kid is sick and has sepsis, why are you discharging him from the hospital to get a second opinion? Like, because I feel like that ultimately, even if the father caused the issue from abuse or whatever, he had chances to get help. But the mother, in her own ego or, wanting to get the father in trouble, she denied her son proper care, and honestly, I think it could have been prevented if she just, dropped the fact, if the father did it or not, and just cared about the well-being of the child.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, James. That it's definitely the mother's side of it is left out, which is typically what happens in these stories. If there's any abuse from the father at all, oftentimes nowadays it gets all blamed on the father and not on the woman. And but I wanna get your opinion on this, because I just, for an example. I want to give both the parents the benefit of the doubt in what I'm about to explain, and I want to let you know what you think. Now, mind you, folks, I'm not saying that this is true and this is the case. It's just a perspective I'm going to bring. So I think that there's a chance that possibly, maybe, like you said, James, that the mother was taking the child to the hospital and finding out that he has this sepsis thing or whatever, right? And as she's because of that, the pneumonia or whatever that she has, that's due to her. That's her responsibility, to her upbringing, her raising, right? But I think at the same time, possibly the father was also overdoing it with the sports and the treadmill and stuff like that, right? And she knew that the father was overdoing it. And because of that, she was going to the hospital and trying to. So, for example, she was seeing that the child was developing these symptoms, right? Something seems off here. And because she has these like ideas that the father maybe have been abusing him, she's trying to get the doctors to say, look, it's from the father. It's the father's fault. He did this. And totally ignoring the fact that the sepsis part is because of her. And then the father, on the other hand, is blaming the mother. So what I think is both people were at fault for being bad parents, but maybe there's a chance that the mother just didn't realize that the sepsis was not from the abuse, but it was from her stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but I'm just saying that's a perspective.
No, I agree. I agree with that, because if you know, like if a kid's getting like, unless he got like some really bad scratches or cuts and some kind of like infection got into his blood from, you know, not getting properly like covered up or cleaned out right, then
Right.
like, yeah, it's like as soon as you find out like your kid is sick and they're in the hospital, you don't bring them out the hospital until you got them on whatever regimen that they're supposed to be on, whether it's antibiotics. Like, I can't even imagine taking my kid out. Told me like my son or my daughter would have pneumonia, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, never mind. I don't want that help. I'm just gonna
Right.
figure it out on my own until I get the answer I want. It's like, no, let's fix the baby first, and then we go and try and figure out the best course of action to deal with, you know, the father or
Right.
you
Right.
think
But
but you got to fix what's broken first.
and to add to that too, there could be another perspective of, like, if you want to take like the diabolical route of the mother just totally trying to, you know, pin this all on the husband, and she has an agenda to destroy him and all these things. That could be the take too. But I think oftentimes people really just don't know what's going on. And the most
Mhm.
obvious case is the fact that this boy was probably getting overly pushed with the physical
Yeah.
thing. And then he's probably complaining to the mom. And the mother, you know, may not like the father either. So she's quick to believe it. But the son's like, you know, dad, you know, over pushes it. He makes me feel like this. And maybe he has a couple bruises here and there. And then the woman is going to overreact and be like, oh, okay, this is unacceptable. Oh, you know what? That makes sense, because now it makes sense why he's sleeping so much. Now it makes sense why he's off. It's because the father's doing it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But
No, I feel that.
you know what I mean? So there's just so many directions it can go. As a matter of fact, I want to do a little bit more research on it, maybe present a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah.
initially, before today, I thought after that that's when he went to the hospital and died in the hospital. I didn't know it was 2 weeks later. You know, I was like, what?
Right.
Man, I was all up in my head thinking about this kid. Like, damn, this guy's a, you know, bad dad a bit, because I thought it happened right after that he had to go to the hospital.
Right.
But yeah, that was good. I'm happy like you guys were still talking about that and with the information, because I bet that opened up a lot of people's eyes to look into the situation
To
a little
look
further,
more
too.
into it. Yeah. It definitely made me want to look. Yeah. So what I think I'm gonna do is, I mean, who knows what tomorrow's gonna bring, but I want to get a little bit more information and then talk about it some more. But I appreciate you calling in to give
Yeah.
your take on it, man.
And in this scenario, I agree with you. Both the parents should be in trouble.
Lock them up.
Kim Jong-un.
Lock them up. Right on, James. I appreciate it.
Go. All right, you have a blessed day, Joel.
All right, you man. Buddy. You too. Have a good one. Cecil says sepsis means an infection has entered the bloodstream. Death isn't far away after that. And you know who's to say that the blunt force trauma of the kid falling and all that stuff, or even maybe just from playing sports and falling on the ground at flag football, it doesn't necessarily have to be just from the treadmill. You know, that could have been the straw that broke the camel's back, right? So we don't want to entirely blame it on the father, and we don't want to not include the mother at all, but we also want to be fair to both parts of both people responsible. The mother had a fault to play and the father had a fault to play, right? So I want to get down to the bottom of both people who are at fault, not just one or the other. So I'm out to look more into that. And then, you know, if I feel like it, talk about it. Because right now I'm just rambling off of what I think is true or not. Anyway, back to the topic. I was thinking about how the reason why most Christians, while Christians today are losing, believers are losing, and why the secular world is winning. Ooh, this is a good example, I think. Maybe. Um, because I realized the believers have boundaries. So the topic of today is false Christian boundaries, right? Believers have boundaries. The secular world, zero boundaries, diabolical, ready to go there at any point, right? There's no rules, there's no nothing. Like they're gonna get to the bottom of their agenda. Believers live by a code. Believers live by boundaries. Believers don't cross the line because not because God said not to, it's because they have this false idea of like, if I cross it, I'm gonna be bad. And we all, I'm including myself, right? But that's the reason why Christians aren't winning is because fear. Not even fear of the end, not even fear of the other person, fear of what they think is gonna happen in the eyes of God, right? And it all comes from the mind. So I want to give you guys an example. Kendrick Lamar and Drake are in this battle. They're in this feud right now. And it's so entertaining to watch. I love this stuff. But I'm not going to go too much into it because I know this is not the platform for that. And you guys aren't into that stuff too much. But Hassan and I get into these conversations all the time. Like, we could have a whole show on rap battles and rap music. But I'm going to just make it brief. So Kendrick Lamar has a diss song to Drake, right? They're going back and forth. And Kendrick Lamar has a song called 616 in LA. And that's like, even the title is a diss to Drake. But I'm going to show you guys really quick some of these lyrics. I'm going to break down some of these lyrics and why it's going to make my point about Christians and secular people. So let's go here. This is from Kendrick Lamar. In his diss song to Drake, within the song, he says, God, my confession is yours, but who am I if I don't go to war? Meaning going to war against Drake. There's opportunity when living with loss. I discover myself when I fall short, right? So to break that down, what he's basically saying is that he's basically confessing on the track that he is gonna go to war with Drake, but forgive me, Lord, but I have to go to war. This opportunity, he's pushing my buttons, I gotta go at it. So he's already kind of making this open confession to make himself feel better, right? That he's about to like go into the trenches with Drake and go to battle. And in him saying that, in my opinion, he already lost, right? And this is what Christians do. In him saying that, he's already lost because he's already feeling guilty for going back and forth with Drake. He's already feeling guilty that he has to confess it to his fans, that he's still holy and he's still of God. And I understand his response. He's still of God, but I just want to let the people know I'm about to take the low road, but just to let you know, hopefully God forgives me type of thing. That's how Christians go about their life, right? That's how Christians, like most Christians, not all, go about facing people, facing things, everything. So after he did that confession, he goes and talks, he thinks he finds this information about Drake having like a second child, that he's hiding a second child, and that the second child is 11 and Drake is neglecting the child and hiding them from the public and blah, 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 right? This like feud. And he says that in one of the songs. Now that's Kendrick representing the believers. Then Drake is going at it. Drake goes at it, and Drake has some lines here, right? And Drake is is my example of the secular part. And Drake, these are both from Genius lyrics. Drake says, I am a war general seasoned in preparation. My jacket is covered in medals, honor, and decoration. You waited for this moment, overcome with the desperation. We plotted for a week and then we fed you the information. A daughter that's 11 years old, I bet he takes it. We thought about giving a fake name and a destination. But you so thirsty, you're not concerned with investigation. You got to learn to fact check these things and be less impatient. Ooh! So for the white folks, what he's basically saying is that, like, you thought you done found this little information about my 11-year-old daughter, but guess what? We made that information up and we fed it to you by a fake source to make you bite and use it against me, but we gave you that, right? And whether that's true or not, I want to show the difference. Is like, you see how like the trickery and like the games that was being played, like he went to a place, like Drake went to war, like, so to speak, right? Went to war about it, right? He looked at it in that way. He was like, I'm gonna give you this fake information to make you think like you got something on me, but I'm the one that set it up, right? Like he was ready to get diabolical with it, right? While Kendrick was playing it safe. Well, I don't know how safe he was really playing it, right? But Drake was going there with it. And he was unapologetic. Not one time was he saying, Lord, forgive me. Not one time was he doing that. He didn't have none of that on him. He was just unapologetic about it. He's like, look, we're going to war. If we're going to do this rap battle, we're going to go to war. Right? And he's like, I'm throwing everything at you. And guess what? I'm going to do my thing here. I'm going to do this here. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to lay this trap. And I'm going to win. And although I don't believe rap and all that stuff is that serious, but it's a great example of why believers are losing. Is that believers are too apologetic. We're too apologetic about everything. We apologize about everything. We're scared to do everything. We're cautious about everything because that's fear. While there's people, the secular world, they ain't got no fear, zero fear. Doing it, whether it's right or wrong, period. There's an element to them that is valuable, is that they're all in. They're all in. And what I think, in my opinion, the solution is that Christians got to start embracing the dark side. Not with hate, not with anger, right? Not with hate, not with anger, but embracing the dark side. Stop being so afraid to tiptoe over these things. Like, if we're going to war, go to war. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that war is the answer or nothing like that. I'm just saying that there's a time for everything. There's a time for peace. There's a time for war. There's a time to put your foot down. There's a time to be kind and gentle. There's a time for all these things. But when it's time, be all in. Because the other side, quote unquote, the other side, right? Other side doesn't exist. But the idea of whether it's Christian or not Christian, whether it's atheist or secular, whatever you want to call it, they're going and they're going hard. And they ain't thinking about your God. They ain't thinking about your Jesus. They ain't thinking about none of that stuff. And that's commendable in the sense that they're all in. They're having no fear. And I think that the reason why, in my opinion, Drake is winning is because of that reason. He don't care. Now, when it comes to their personal lives, I rock with like Kendrick more than I rock with the Drake, but I like them both. Right? Because it's a whole thing. But the point is that, like, listen, Christians can embrace the dark side too. And we're always so afraid to do that because we're thinking like, no, that's so, but that's like the marshmallow Christian version of approaching life is like safe, cute. You know what I mean? Like the high road, right? Like it's all these like things. But think about back in the day when it was time to go to war. Like I was watching Napoleon. I was watching the movie Napoleon, and Napoleon, the what the movie, and I'll try not to spoil it. I'll try, but his whole premise, at least according to the movie, I don't know if it's real, true or not, but according to the movie, his approach was never about war. It was always about peace, right? But when they didn't want to make peace, he was ready for war and he was strategic. He knew what to do and he was like the best. And he would always win because he knew how to go to war. But his heart was set on peace, meaning like he wanted to make the peace. That was always his first intention. He was like, let's go here to make peace. We can all be peaceful together. We don't have to, lose warriors. We don't have to do all these things. Let's make it work. But the other side was always like, no, like, let's go to war. So he was like, okay, if we're going to go to war, we're going to war. And he went to war and he would win, right? He was all in. And I respected that. Because I'm like, where did it come from that we got to be so nice? Where did it come from that Christians got a hug? You know what I mean? That's got to be coming from the mama. Right? Because Christians are supposed to be tough, man. There should be an element to Christians that is tough. I'm talking about to where people walk up to you and they just know you're not playing. Like it doesn't even get to the fight or the war because they know something's in you that they ain't about to mess with. That's what it should be. It shouldn't even have to take to mess around and find out. They should just be able to see like, I ain't messing with that guy. That's what Christianity was supposed to be. That's what it used to be. That's what it used to be. You know what I mean? And that's what makes people want to become a Christian. Not this like let me hug you. And there's a time for everything. There's time for everything. But the point is that like what is lacking is the closed-handed fist. So that's why Drake is winning the battle right now, is because he had all type of the tactics. And he wasn't saying no sorry. And I believe that even though Drake is in a secular world and he be doing some crazy thing, he be painting his nails and he be doing all kind of stuff, I still like him because in some enemy won't let me like hate him. But even despite that, there's still like a faith there, a belief there. Even though he doesn't talk about it and all that stuff, and even though he may be misguided or lost, whatever. That's his business. But there's still like a element of like goodness there. But it's two sides of the same coin. Is Kendrick's on the side of I'm trying to find peace and be of God and make music that can benefit people's lives, and he's on that, and I respect that. I like Kendrick Lamar for that. But Drake's on the side of like, be free. It's not that deep. Make music whatever you want to make. Have fun. Enjoy your life. And there's elements of both of that are good. But Drake is unapologetic and he's not scared. Kendrick a little scared. So, who are you? Are you Drake or are you Kendrick? That's my biblical question. Are you Kendrick Lamar or are you Drake? You want me to tell you who I am? I'm going to tell you who I'm trying to be. Hake said, I'm Kendrick Lamar. Hey, you Kendrick Lamar or Drake? I'm going to tell you who I'm trying to be Drake Lamar. I'm trying to be boy, because it's the same. They're both not wrong, but they're both on two opposite ends, in my opinion. But both are good. Be unapologetic. Don't be caring. Embrace that dark side when you need to embrace that dark side. But at the same time, you know God is Lord. You know that blah, 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 blah. All the things that you need to know about God and Christianity. Knowing yourself, overcoming certain Christian values. You know what I mean? God ain't making it as big of a deal as we think he is about the dark side and all these different things. So somebody says Easy E was the best. Who? Easy E. Hake says Drake is a colonizer. Like that's a bad thing, right? What a mess. Like it's so much stuff. But I'm gonna get to a call right now. Let me just check and see if we have. Falconing says, embrace God, not the dark side, ye fool. I understand why you believe that, Falconing. And hey, who's to say I'm right and you're wrong, right? But I think that's just a saying. I think that's just a saying. And that, like, embrace God thing is all based off of a judgment to an idea about what is right and wrong, what is good and evil. And I think that's why the reason Christians are soft. Embrace God. That's why. Embrace God. Embrace God. So, I know Zenny don't like that one. Zenny probably ain't even watching no more. Zenny and mod, he demodded himself. No, not really. But let me go to Alex at Tennessee. Alex, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Hey, Joel. How you?
How's it going? All is well.
I'm doing all right. Doing all right.
Nice.
So I just listened to what you're talking about with the this rap battle, whatever. I don't really follow these things,
right.
And I don't really know that much about these guys. I'm not really into that world.
Yeah.
However, it's kind of interesting, just based off of what you talked about with the two of them, how Kendrick's talking about apologizing to God that he's going to go do this thing that is not necessarily righteous, but he's got to do it for whatever reason. It's kind of goofy. And it reminded me of how Jesse said you can't ride two horses at the same time. You got to serve somebody, and you can't serve good and evil simultaneously.
Right.
You kind of have to. You have to make a decision in terms of, and by making a decision, what I'm talking about really is your orientation. Are you going to orient yourself towards the light, or are you going to orient yourself towards the darkness? Because you can't orient yourself in both directions at the same time. You have to follow the light, or you turn towards the darkness. You can't divide yourself that way. And I think that's the only amount of quote unquote free will that we have, is whether or not we are pursuing the path, the lighted path, or we are remain in the darkness, comfortably numb, comfortably in a state where we understand that it's purely a power play. Everything is all about might equals right, which is the way most people function.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily. But might does not equal right. You can be. That's why. The Romans, for instance, had to figure out a way to get rid of Jesus, because even though he wasn't necessarily he didn't have a big army behind him or anything like that, his idea was very threatening to their power.
Right.
Because what he presented and what he brought to people was the idea that they already were free, that this idea of authority, man-made authority, is an illusion, and it still is.
Right.
And people serve it. When you ask people, like, quote unquote Christians or religious people, like, this is who you worship, this is your God, yes, as long as it doesn't interfere with their worship of governments, because they'll do what the government tells them before they do what God tells them.
Well, what do you think about when I say Christians should embrace the dark side? What do you think when I say that? What's your opinion about that?
What do you mean by the dark side?
So, I think that Christians believe that that, like, facing things, or like going to war, or whatever the case is like a stoop down, right? And so whether it be, it doesn't even have to be a physical war, whether it be like just like conversation, whether it be whatever. Christians tend to think that certain things are off limits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of thinking like, no, we're gonna go to war about this, but they see that as the dark side. They see that as like, no, that's stooping too low. Like, let's take the high road and blah blah blah.
Well, the reason why that generally doesn't work when you talk to Christians, because they're not really Christians.
Right.
They're Christian in name only. They're not Christian in the true sense of what that means, because they might believe that they are Christians. They go to church and whatever, they have certain values that they hold, but as soon as those values conflict with authority that they believe in, that to them is actually more prescient than God's authority, or the authority of good or truth, or whatever you want to call, the opposite of evil.
Right.
That as soon as those principles, you have to choose between the truth and whatever the alternative is, they fold.
Right.
Because and the thing is that and so they don't really believe in God. They don't really love God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. They're not really in anyway. So you're just talking to another devil who pretends that he loves God, but he's not really in it.
Well, see,
that's yeah.
Oh, go ahead, finish your point.
No, I was just saying, so it's just more devils fighting other devils. And so even though they pretend that they're for this or for that, they're on the quote unquote opposite side of whatever somebody or something represents, they're really no different. They're hypocrites.
And you know what? That's such a good point about the hypocrite thing, because you know what I think that I'm learning, that I realize that it's what even sets up a hypocrite is like a made up mind, because we're constantly going through like this evolving state of understanding and growth. So there's things that we thought we knew, or we knew in partial, that when we grow we realize we didn't know it entirely, or we realize we were wrong. And when
Yeah.
we have our mind made up on anything, then yes, we are going to become a hypocrite, because we're just believing what we thought was true, and then now we're doing something different. So I think that, like, you're right in the sense that that there's people who it's just a devil versus another devil, because anybody with a made up mind is still working with the devil, even if they don't know it, because the mind should always be open to new understanding, to full understanding. And when you really allow it to just, you to be an empty cup and just learn as you go, then you may realize that, like, I'm not saying you in general, but people in general, that the dark side doesn't mean the evil side. You know what I mean? Like, you just realize that, oh, okay, well, maybe it is okay for me to stand up for what I believe in physically, or even whatever, or even like defend myself, or whatever it may, or go to war when I need to go to war, or whatever. But it's like Christians at times have their minds closed off. So to them, it's always like, well, Jesus wouldn't do this, right? Or they have one side of like, oh, well, Jesus was gentle. Let's just say Jesus was a gentle man, and he, he would never have done this or that. And they just have one aspect of Jesus, but they don't have the full scope of like what makes up God's nature. You know what I mean? And we don't
Mm.
always know
Well,
that all at once. So we shouldn't have our
yeah.
minds made up, and we should just let ourselves live and be free and learn these things, but also stop being afraid of offending God, afraid of doing the wrong thing, because that's why people don't end up even being real. If I'm
Mm.
making sense.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
What do you
You
think?
know,
What do you think about that? I
th-
know I said a lot, but
well, I think that the truth is a hard thing for people to face. Uh, First of all, within themselves, and if they're not willing to face the truth of what they see in themselves, they're never going to face it outside of themselves either. And a lot, because there's a lot of contradictions when you look out into the world, and that's what gets people upset, and they want to fight with each other, and they want
right,
to start feuds with one another and whatnot, because they sense that there's some injustice, and so they seek some way to rectify that injustice that they sense.
right,
But if you're not honest, if you can't be honest about what you see, and that's what I believe repentance
yeah,
is being honest about what you see, whether it's outside of yourself or inside of yourself, and being logical with it, because the truth endures all things. It doesn't care about your feelings about it. It
right,
doesn't care about your attitudes about it. It doesn't care about your written documents that are held up in high regard. Whether they're biblical or governmental documents. Any of that stuff, if it's a contradiction to the truth, it will create friction.
right,
And so, because a lie is not sustainable unless it's covered up by more and more lies, and it just keeps going and going. That's why the devil's called the father of lies, because that's his gig,
right,
is just to lie indefinitely, because he thinks he wants to be God, like most human beings. They want to be God, and so
right,
if you are pretending to be God, then you're the devil.
right. And
So
that's what a made up mind is right there, is pretending to be God. And you're right,
yeah,
it's like there's honesty is repentance, and you have to be willing to be honest at every point and be okay with being wrong, with the understanding of knowing that because wrong is leading you to right. You know what I mean? It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make these mistakes, but you're right. You got to be
Yeah.
honest at all times.
And you have to die of that false identity that you've been carrying around about what you thought was true.
Right.
And be willing to let it go.
Right.
It's like when you look at church, and Jesse was talking about, you got to be willing to let go of your wife, your family, your friends, your job, whatever it takes, if you're going to be all in. But if you're not, then you're not. And and you can't just have a little bit of lie you're hanging on to. If you have a little bit of lie, you're still a liar, and the truth isn't in you.
Right. Exactly. Great point. That's a great point, Alex. You got to be honest at all points, and if you're holding on to anything, that's not you being fully honest with what's going on. So,
and that doesn't mean you have to be weak and easily manipulated, because I think there's a misconception in these Christians, to your earlier point, that they are, if they do these things, that they're gonna have to be weak and docile, and that's not true at all.
Right.
In fact, the whatever it is, the enemy of good and evil and the truth, will go through great lengths to try to shut anybody down who wants to tell the truth. I mean, look how I think if Jesse was more of a how do you say, like, more of an average kind of player in the conservative realm, that he would be a lot more popular. But I think there's a lot of suppression because people just don't want people to know the things he's talking about.
It's hard for people to handle a lot of this stuff too. It's all emotional. People feel a certain way, but it's just it's a crazy thing when it comes to the truth and people being honest, and I think that it really comes down to, at the end of the day, is people just not. It's just playing God. People not being honest, but people wanting to lock their opinion. Like, it's okay to have an opinion. There's nothing wrong with having an opinion, but not to lock your opinion in as definite truth. And I feel like that is a mistake.
The only thing you can be 100% certain of is the extent of your own ignorance.
Right. A good point. Good point. I appreciate it, Alex. Good points there. You always have some interesting things to bring to the conversation. So thanks, man.
All right, Joel. We'll see you later, man. I wish you well.
All right. Call me again. Nice. Great points. All I'm saying, really, and I'm going to keep repeating it till it's clear, is that every decision that we make, every person, is because it's based off of judgment of right and wrong. But what if you realized that you don't know right and wrong? What if you realized that what you thought was right, it was wrong, and what you thought was wrong was right? What if you realized that right or wrong isn't even relevant? Right? What would you really learn? And I feel like that's what believers are stumped with, is the idea, the concept, which is the knowledge of good and evil, which is a lie. He said it in Genesis, right? That's what the apple was. It opened up the knowledge of good and evil, which is a lie. What if, and that's the thing that stumps the Christians, is the knowledge of good and evil, what they think is right and wrong. So we're living our lives based off of what we think is wrong and what we think is right. And then we don't allow ourselves to go past the boundaries to find out if it's true or not. We don't let ourselves cross it a little bit just to see, Am I sure I know that I know this? We have these fake boundaries. And Jesus came to wipe the boundaries away, so that we come to understand them within truly and become these things. Like, we're not created to follow rules. That's why women aren't in the kitchen today. That's why women aren't stay-at-home moms today, or they're not a helper to their husband today. Is because at some point they were just taught to follow the rules of a traditional woman, and they got tired of it because they're just following rules. They don't know why. That's why Jesus come away to wash away the rules, so you could truly find the proper way to live with no guilt, with no fear, with no condemnation, with no second guessing, with no wondering, am I right or wrong? Don't worry about what you're right or wrong. Find out. Find out through experience if you're right or wrong. Are you right or wrong? Who cares? Find out on the way. And when we get rid of those boundaries and we fully walk in that, that's when we're no longer afraid to stand up against evil, stand up against wrongdoing. And we can do it with love. But if we got to go there, we'll be able to go there unapologetically, without no guilt about it. Because the guilt will hold you back. The guilt make you weak. The guilt will make that punch not full force. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about YouTube. I'm not talking about physical punch, but maybe sometimes it got to be one. I don't know. Right? I don't know, physical or not. I'm just using a figure of speech to make my point. So anyway, I got it. The American Anchor Baby is coming in for his show. You don't want to miss it. And the American Anchor Baby was making a great point about the son that got killed with the treadmill and the infection. American Anchor Baby was making a great point about that, about the facts that were missing and all that stuff. So make sure you guys tune in. I don't know what he's going to talk about, but make sure you guys tune into the American Anchor Baby show coming up right now. Follow me across the board, y'all. Joel Friday TV. Do me a favor. Subscribe. Hit that like button right now and subscribe right now. If you're not subscribed and you're watching, what are you doing? You're a criminal. Subscribe. And all that good stuff. I got to go. I'm back here tomorrow for some more mess. Until next time, y'all, I got to go. Bye.